on all cars since the 80s, basically, is when they started gluing the glass in. That's where they get their rollover strength from now. So anytime you take the butyl or a rubber bushing or rubber molding out and you urethane the glass into the car, you're making it 1,000 times stronger than it was. So anybody that's doing, we have a lot of guys that do the road racing stuff, and they all run the flush glass in it because it makes the car 10 times stronger, more stout, more rigid. So if you cage and you glass the car, you're making it super strong from what it was from the factory.
Yo, what up, C10 Nation? This is Ronnie from C10 Talk. C10 Talk is one of those podcast things. We talk C10 trucks, tech, and people. That's right, people. Because it's the people that make the scene so rad-ass. The trucks are cool, but the people are cooler. You can check out the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, c10talk.com, and anywhere else you listen to your favorite podcasts. Thanks for checking out our latest video and being part of the C10 Nation. All right, C10 Nation. Couple of OGs in the Phoenix area and actually in the community itself. So stoked to have Fesler, Chris, and Carrie on, and a long time coming. Definitely what I would say an OG in the community, and love what you guys do. You push the envelope. You've been pushing the envelope a long time. So welcome to C10 Talk.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, thank you. Nice having you.
Okay, for the audience, if you only knew, we couldn't. I don't know if we could have even sent a letter through the mail this morning. We were getting our asses kicked by technology, audio, and everything else. So I told Carrie I won't touch any more of my cables, and we're hoping that we can keep this thing rocking. Yeah, we can keep it rocking for this morning. So, tell a little bit about the to the community, a little bit about who you guys are.
Why do you look at me?
Because you have such a great voice.
So being OG, we started in 1994. That's when Chris and I met, and we began doing car stuff mainly because of him. I wasn't really, my dream was not to be an automotive enthusiast company owner. And we started doing articles, photography. We've been published in over 1,000 different magazines, 1,000 different articles. And that has led us basically to where we are now, which is specializing in aftermarket glass and upholstery products for classic American hot rods. Right now, the truck stuff is really, really popular, which is why we're here with you. And we're looking to expand that line to include several different trucks beyond the C10, sorry, but we do have to include those other folks as well.
I think the ultimate thing is whether it's a Ford or a Dodge, or I mean, obviously even we consider all the Chevy trucks. I mean, I think the C10 thing kind of gets where it's like, oh, C10, whether it's a Tri-5, a First Design, Advanced Design, whether it's a Task Force, whether it's a early C10, even if it's a Ford or a Dodge. I mean, to me, if it's on the road and it's still going today, I mean, even it's crazy to think that like 90s trucks are now considered a classic. And I know that's hard to believe. Yeah, it's hard to believe, and so any old truck on the road is good. I just love seeing old trucks on the road. So whether or not it's a C10 or a Dodge, a D100, an F100, F150, I think the community for in general, and for you guys, you've seen it, right? So you've seen the Camaros were so popular, and I can't even imagine if you went through and looked at how many windshields you sold for each different, era and each different style of cars and trucks. And now when you're like, okay, the C10 world, the square body world, obviously the 67 72s were so popular for so long, and I still think that they're the king, but the square bodies are getting very popular. And then the OBS is coming on hot.
Yeah, the OBS is what we're getting to next, but that's a hard decision because the glass, do you make glass for it? Because the door moldings kind of mold into that glass. So you'd have to eliminate that, which I think would cause wind noise. But going back to your Camaro statement and your C10 statement, the Camaros and C10s basically go back and forth on who's hotter.
I don't know.
One month the Camaro will be hotter, and then next month the C10s will beat them by 10. It's like, that's crazy if you think about it.
I'm really impressed with the truck market. Those guys have stepped up like you would not believe, and they are spending some ridiculous amounts of money on their truck. It's very impressive.
Look at Barrett Jackson. I mean, they're getting $500,000 for these things now.
Yeah,
my Blazer now today, I can't imagine what I get for it
Yeah,
now.
and for the audience, why don't you walk us back through that build and when you debuted that build and kind of the story of that build?
Well, the Blazer, so Brian McCormick at Street Trucks built a Blazer back in late 80s, early 90s, I guess it probably was. And it's something I always liked, but I never thought it pushed the envelope enough. And at the time, everybody was trying to razor window everything. And I hate that look on the trucks. I think it's a terrible design. It's a terrible look. It's not safe. So we basically took the Roadster. I always loved Boyd when I was a kid. Everything that Boyd built was always so flowing and smooth and just crisp lines. And so we're like, well, why don't we take a Blazer? Because I'd done the truck prior, the 67 C10. I did that 20 years ago.
Was that the red one?
Yeah, the red one. We did that one 20 years ago. And that was way over the top for the time of what we built. It had LS. It was one of the first LS motors from GM. We worked with GM Performance on that to get it all working properly. Then we went back to GM Performance and said, let's take it up a notch. And we had a custom racing chassis built by Jim Meyer Racing. And he fought me the whole way through the chassis saying that he didn't like this, didn't like that. I'm like, just trust me. It's going to be something different that no one has ever done before. And it still today, that's the most advanced frame I've ever built on a car. I literally could drive it on the street like a go-kart, and it handled better than anything else I've ever built. It was more fun to drive. The attention it would draw at the shows was absolutely insane. I mean, like you said, going to Barrett-Jackson and seeing that in person for the first time after, when we originally built it, we were told by Trucking Magazine that it would never even, we'd be lucky if we could get a feature in the magazine. And I'm like, well, we're going to build it to a whole, I went back and forth with a bunch of editors on the colors, and they always said, you know, red and black or what if you want to be, you got to have a red or black truck. And I'm like, no, we're going to push the envelope. And so we picked an Austin Martin color. I think it was from a 2000, roughly in that area, early 2000 color. And we went with that. And I kept pushing the body farther and farther and kind of reshaping everything. And not one panel was untouched on that. And when you look at it now, you're like, oh, it looks like a stock Blazer. But I mean, there's probably been 30 built now from that one. So I don't want to say we were the ones that caused it, because I got the idea from someone else and kind of took it and just ran with a different body with it.
Yeah, I think Mary Jane was the next evolution, which is ironic. That's more glass guys, but his black pony's black two-door Roadster. And then you're right. There's been a few Roadsters that have come on board. And I think what happens is we move so fast social media wise that people probably don't even really,
you might not have time to enjoy anything.
Well, but they might not even understand that you built it and it goes back in that lineage. Something that's even crazier. And so Carter Hickman did a rendering of a Blazer, and it was a gold. Well, I ended up buying that from Nate. So Nate Porter here in Phoenix, he was going to do the chassis, and then Carter needed the money. So I ended up buying that 2-wheel drive Blazer back, I don't know, 20 plus years ago. And then it just didn't work out. But even that rendering alone will get a lot of love. And that's crazy to think that that's been 20 years now. And then your Blazer has been done for at least, I would say 25. Seeing it as a young man at Barrett, or it was probably Good Guys, to be honest with you. I can't remember. I remember sitting there at Westworld, and there it is. And it was, lights out.
Well, we took that to Barrett-Jackson under all metal and then primed and then painted. So it did go there in all three stages.
So yeah, it was probably Barrett.
That literally was probably a 6 to 8 month build over 3 years, because we had to make money in the shop.
Sure.
And that we built for ourselves. So
the owner of that truck never paid us. He's a real jerk. We
got lots of cool stuff we'd love to build, but you got to pay the bills still. So
he never paid us. I just got that because I'm thinking some guy shafted these guys, and you're like, oh, okay, the builder screwed the company out of. So what point did you guys decide, okay, we're doing print, we're doing all this stuff, and now we're gonna evolve into the company that you have today? And did you ever even envision that you'd be where you are 30 years down the road?
No, we had no clue it would turn into what it turned into. But we were building. I built a couple cars for a couple small companies way back in the day, and then like Audiobond. I mean, half these people probably don't know who they are. Stereo company. That was. I mean, when we met the company, they were a 10 by 20 at SEMA. When we were done with them, they were over 100 by 100 at SEMA. Or I'm sorry, CES, Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas. Same thing as SEMA, just a much bigger show.
We did marketing.
Yeah, we were doing all their marketing and PR for them at the time, all the magazine stuff for them, and they asked us to build a couple cars. And then from there, right when we were doing those, we hooked up with GM, and we were building probably 10 cars a year for General Motors, Ford, Buick, Cadillac, and then Audiobond, Kicker. I mean, tons of work with Bear, who's here in town. a ton of stuff with Magnuson, with Whipple. I mean, we were working with all the big companies at the time.
And OG, we were back when the GM vehicles we got for $1.
Yeah, dollar.
or half, or most of them were crushers, but yeah.
So when
nice.
with this year being your 30 year, is it down to the month? Are we at the 30-year anniversary?
December.
Oh, okay. So we've got a few more months left, but either way, you're at your 30-year this year, which is pretty crazy to think. When you look back and you look at the evolution, you've made it, right? And it's funny to think some of those companies that you've associated with, like Autobahn and different consumer electronics, to GM, to obviously Bear's been bought out now. So
almost everybody's been bought out. Yeah. The only one left would be Kicker.
We've outlasted a lot of companies that were both competition and just people we thought would never go out of business. But shit happens.
How do you balance the or figure out that I want to be more of a builder and less of the marketing? And did you ever struggle with that, to think, hey, we love this marketing, we do the photos, we do the write-ups, we do this, and now we are evolved into a builder as well? And at one point or another, did you guys say, hey, we can only handle so much, we have to cut back on this, and this is the direction that we're going for? And how do you decide that?
That doesn't
happen. We have too many things going at once, and the bad thing for a company, but good thing for a company, that's what saved us, is because basically in 2008, when the market crashed, it didn't really hit us probably till 10, 11, because we were still, we still had a big shop, a lot of employees, building a bunch of, I think in 2010, we had 10 cars at SEMA. A lot of them were the 2010 Camaros that we were doing with John Moss from General Motors, GM Performance. And from there, we got into, to back that all up a little bit, I was always buying parts from everybody. I'm like, dude, these parts suck. We're buying billet parts from companies and they're failing. They're causing paint damage. They're breaking. I'm like, I can do it better. And everybody's like, well, if you can do it better, do it. So one of my employees' brothers was getting out of the industry, and we're like, well, what if we come in and kind of save you? And then that's how we started Fesler Billet, which was over 17 years ago. And then we ran that, or actually longer than that. We ran that company for 17 years, and then it started getting sent to China. And I'm like, we're not going to play with China. We're all about America. So if we're going to get competition from China, that's terrible. They're undercutting the, hood hinge costs $700 to manufacture and sell. They're selling them for $299. I'm not going to compete against that. So it's kind of the same. We just kind of follow the market to what is hot at the time. Same thing with interiors. Every interior shop in town screwed me. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way to do this. So we started making the panels for everybody. I'm like, I'll make the panels. You guys can wrap them yourself, and it's going to solve half of your issues when you're building the car. So that's kind of where the parts came from. So we've been doing interiors for probably 20 years now. And the glass we've been doing for about 10 years now. And that kind of the same thing. We kind of stumbled on something that someone started to do something and couldn't do it. We took reins and took control of it and made it better and faster and easier. And it's not cheaper, because glass is a manufacturing nightmare. Finding someone that can do it for you is very hard. We went through a bunch of companies, but it's all made here in America. So we're proud of that. And we have to sell it for a higher dollar amount to keep it made in America, but that's just what it is.
I would think that you don't get
to go to China. It's not worth it.
Do you get people? Well, back up. Have you ever had an idea or something that you chased for a while, and then eventually, because we're looking at the success, we're saying, okay, even Billet, even though you're like, I'm not going to compete with China, there's been evolutions, ebb and flows with this journey. Was there ever an idea that you thought was just going to be like a no-brainer, and then you started 6 months down the road, you're just 80 hours in the shop, you're trying to figure it out, and eventually you're like, no, we're not doing this. It's just it's not feasible.
Well, one of the things we had to do when we were building vehicles is we would take in anything. So, somebody would want a suspension system done, and sure, yeah, bring it in, we'll get that done for you. We had to stop taking that because of the image we wanted to portray and the path we wanted to go down. So because we wanted to do high end and be known for vehicles, full builds, we had to turn away a lot of business that didn't fit in that bubble of where we wanted to go. So we had to make some hard choices, and it's pretty much trial or error. It was just like, oh yeah, we can do that. Let's start doing that. And then after a while, we're like, wait a minute, the numbers aren't adding up, and you spend $100,000 to make 20. It doesn't, stuff like that doesn't make sense. And it takes a while for you to figure out that, but once you do, it's easier to move forward because now you know what works and what doesn't. and having a little bit of loyalty to yourself and not to everyone else helped us a lot too. So we're big Gen Xers, so we really don't care what other people think. And we make our own decisions based on what's going to be best for us and not what the popular choice is.
Oh man, quote of the day here. I love the take care of yourself because you have to. And I think also as a Gen X, we always put ourselves, my wife and I talk about this all the time. You put yourself like 10th, 11th, 12th, and you're like, and you're trying to, like again, you're like, well, you have to eventually pay yourself. How do you think you can just keep doing this at 80 plus hours a week? And it also comes down to that I'd rather work 80 a week for you or for myself than work 40 for somebody else. And that gets to be a tough thing. I think a lot of Gen Xers, and hopefully people will continue to see that over time. But like you said, things just change, and the I think dealing with the employees, and you probably, what would you say when you look back from more of a business perspective? Is there more employees, is more headaches? Is there a sweet spot?
Yes.
You're like, hey,
Employees are the worst.
you're like, hey, if we can have 4 employees, we're happy. But once we get to 8, we're miserable. Is there something you've learned over that journey?
I'll tell you what makes employees good or bad. And it's the one bad apple. So I could have 20 employees and one guy that's just a dick, and he ruins it for everyone. He makes everyone else, in a bad mood or do their job poorly because they don't like him. So we have a great crew, and we're usually pretty good about picking guys. I've got guys that have been with me for 20 years. So it doesn't necessarily matter the number. The government that you have to pay to have that many employees, I could do without. But for the most part, as long as you have a good crew and they understand you as a boss, it goes pretty well. But the ones that come in and think they can do it better, we usually have a problem with that. But I get it because I don't work for anybody because I thought I could do all my boss's jobs better. So proving it is something that a lot of those guys have to do. And if they can do that, we all get along great. And we're a great team when it comes to that. But when you get the guy that just thinks you're stupid and that's not going to work and it's too old school, it kind of puts a bad taste in everyone's mouth. Not to say that we shouldn't look at more current items like AI and social media and all that stuff.
That can't build a phone.
But that can't. Yes.
Well, I'm going to tell you, Fesler, you lucked out because Carrie, you are so smart. And I love that I mean this like all 100%, because when you say that's a big challenge, I think that I use Gas Monkey as the example all the time because people know who Gas Monkey, and they say, oh, Richard's a dick, but Aaron's the best. Okay. I have a great relationship with both of these guys. But Aaron can't do what Richard does, and Richard can't do what Aaron does. And it takes a team. And sometimes I think these guys that have this skill set, and girls, to each its own, they'll say, okay, well, I can do it better. Okay, listen, go and do it on your own with working 90 hours, dealing with the government, trying to get employees, and try it. Because if the AC company guy the kid didn't leave and go do it on his own, then we only have one company, right? We see that all the time. Some guys can make it and some guys can't. And hopefully if they can't, they come back and they say, hey, I couldn't, I want to work for you. I enjoy this. And if they do make it, hopefully there's, a professional relationship there, because it does seem like guys end up leaving different companies. And then they, that guy was a dick. That guy was this. Like, listen, everybody's trying to make money. Everybody's trying to, and in Phoenix, we have I'm always blown away that we have Porterbuilt, GSI,
so many
FB.
shops there.
So right here in River City, we have, it's almost kind of like Fresno was back in the day when you think about the manufacturing and the spindles and the different things from the truck perspective. But we have so much different things right here in Arizona going on at all times. So it's cool that you say that and you see that, hey, somebody's always going to try to do it better. And hopefully they're humble.
We try to encourage our employees too, that if this is not what they want to do and they want to go try something different or do their own business, we encourage them to do that. I don't threaten them to stay and you're never going to find another job. In fact, we do a lot of mentoring for high school students, but we tell them, we'll support you. We have a lot of guys here that go to school and they cannot miss school to come to work. It's just not allowed. So if they need a week off for tests, they get a week off for tests. That's how it goes. We support it because we want everyone to be successful and not just a slave to Fesler. It'd be great if I could get someone to stay 30 years and be a part of the company, but it's not realistic to think, especially in this
Nowadays,
day and
everything
age.
jumps around.
Yeah, with the generations now, they don't look that far ahead. They don't see themselves with a company for that long. So we have to deal with that too. And that causes a lot of turnover. And that in itself can be a big problem. Not so much the employees, just being able to keep them.
Have you ever had anybody leave and then come back and be very, very humble about that and stay and say, hey, I tried it and it didn't work out?
No, it's
Pride won't let people do that.
Yeah, there's a lot of bitterness usually involved. And it also depends if they left on their own or if I let them go.
Yeah.
So sometimes just people aren't working out. They clash with Chris. They just, and I tell them why it's not working out and we're going to have to let you go. And then if they try to come back and say, hey, I learned my lesson, I'm ready to go. I know what I need to do now. It's just never quite there. They never quite put in 100%, I think. And it's because I think they feel, kind of screwed a little bit from when we left. And it's a pride thing. Like Chris says, this is a bad industry for having to deal with men's pride.
And this is the worst part of our industry. I don't know how any of these guys are finding the employees that will do the work you need, because a lot of these companies are putting out subpar work and they're okay with it. And it's like, you go to shows, you look at some of the trucks being built and you go, you paid how much for this? And I think in 2010, we saw a lot of that when everybody kind of left and went to work for themselves. And then the economy got better and everybody went back to jobs working for a bigger shop. And then the economy got tight again in the last 4 years. Everybody's feeling what's going on. And now everybody's starting to go, I'm going to work out of my house and do work out of my house. And not all people that work out of their house are bad, but the majority of them don't know what they're doing. And they should just stick to one app. A lot of these guys think they can go home and do it better and they can do the wiring, the fabrication, the interior, the paint, the bodywork, and they can't. They're only good at 2 of them. They're not good at all 8 of them. And if you're not good at it, you got to build a team that's good at all of it. And if you're not good at all of it, then you're wasting your time. You need to stop doing what you're doing, because they're doing the most damage to our industry right now by all of the subpar work that they're putting out. That's just not.
And they're not insured.
Yeah, they're not operating like a business yet. They're trying to be a business, and you can't do both. You gotta put your big boy pants on and join the real world and actually have a legit business. Because a lot of people are getting, like you said, we talked about earlier, a lot of people are being screwed in projects right now. And it's sad. You hear this guy got burned out of 100 grand or 50 grand, even 10 grand. I mean, it's, that's a lot of money to be burned out of.
Yeah. So for the audience, before we went on air, we're going to do a little, a theme or some good, bad, and ugly, because we have a lot of that going on. So we'll get into that as the future kind of unfolds with different pods that are going to come up. But eventually we do have guys that are just getting screwed. So things to watch for, pitfalls. And if you're going to a mom and pop, or, actually some of these are even bigger companies, and there's issues. So we could easily digress on that. Let's get back into, what you guys do and what you provide. And I think you're known for, so I think this has been a positive, is really your glass. What's some of the different options and challenges that you guys are facing there?
So when we first decided to do this glass thing, we thought there was someone out there doing it. And we heard through the grapevine that he was not doing so well, going out of business, yada, yada, yada. So we decided, hey, this would be a good business for us to get into, not only for our projects, but if this guy's going away, then there's an opening in the industry. So we started out just going to glass companies and seeing if they could do what we needed. And a lot of them were overseas. And I can't even tell you the difference between the metric system and the standard system.
We sent Camaro glass, 69 Camaro glass, back and forth probably 10 times at $1,000 each way. And we never got a good piece of glass from them.
Yeah, so that was a complete bust. That was a complete waste. We probably dumped $30,000 into that venture, and it just tanked and we gave up. We really did. We were like, this is not worth it. I mean, if we can't even get one piece of glass right, I don't know how it's going to be with the other ones. And that's when Pilkington reached out to us, and they have heard through the grapevine that we were looking for a manufacturer. So once we got with them, things were smooth sailing, because our division is here in America. So we work with the American division, and they were great. They told us how to make the plugs, how to help them with the molds. We've been to the factory several times to see
let's back all that up.
How our glass is made.
LOF is owned by Pilkington, which is now NSG. LOF is where all this glass on the 60s cars, all American cars, trucks, everything was made. That same plant produces our glass. So we're made on the exact same factory run that those guys were all run on.
Well, an educational LOF was Libby Owens Ford.
Yeah.
So that was the original glass from back in the day, and they bought all of their molds. So the original glass that we make for the classic cars is from the molds from 1950, whatever. So a lot of the places that you buy glass from in America that get it from China, they're reproducing those molds and the stamps, and they don't care about the quality.
And China can't make glass to save their life because they're buying the most cheap product possible, as you can imagine. And that's why if you look at, like, if you ever have your car done and you get a windshield that's got blems in it, it's got huge pockets in it, it's got soft spots, flat spots, that's all Chinese glass because they don't know what they're doing. So our glass is made, all the sands are made in Texas and South Carolina.
Yeah.
And then all the glass is manufactured in America, then it's sent down to Mexicali and it's formed on the LOF plant down in Mexicali. And then it's brought back into America. So
we're real proud of the quality of our glass company. That's an excellent job taking care of us. They really do put out the best quality automotive glass. And a lot of people don't even realize how much Pilkington glass they have. 9 times out of 10, your Ford F-150 window is from Pilkington glass. So we were really lucky to meet up with them. Had we not, I don't think we would be where we are today. And because of the success of the business, we're now the only aftermarket reseller for Pilkington hot rod glass. We took over the entire division. So we're the specialists now in that, and that just branches off with the flush glass that we have. You can buy a whole kit and all the glass will match all the way around. That was really important to us, to not have to mix and match different countries' glass and different quality glass.
You guys also offer, and that's a good thing, is people think, oh, the flush mount, but you guys also offer just regular glass.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, it's like,
yeah,
hey, if you want this high level of glass for your classic, you guys offer that as well, not just the flush mount.
right.
Yeah, you can buy a regular windshield from us, you know, for a 69 Camaro. And if you're going to still use your original trim and everything, yep, we can get those to you all day long. They're quite a bit more affordable.
It'll be all made in America, but you're gonna pay for that. Our competition buys containerfuls of blem glass and then sells it as good glass in America. And that's why he's paying literally $5 to $6 per piece of glass.
Which is why when you call and complain about the fitment, they can ship you another one the same day.
He can ship you 10 sets because it doesn't cost him anything.
Yeah, it'll take him 25 cents to even come close to what he actually paid.
For the truck world, you guys, I know you obviously specialize 67, 72, and then the square body stuff, and you've kind of got that. Are you looking at going backwards? Are you thinking about like?
We already are. We go 55 to 59, 60, 63, 64, 66, 67, 72. And
well, is it because on your website it doesn't it says, you know, inquire? Is it just because the orders change or the time changes or the money changes or
we have 19 on our website right now that molds are all done.
Okay.
So like the 55 to 66, we're all in the test fitting stages of actually produced glass now.
And that's another thing people don't realize is
we got to get 3 or 4 trucks.
I think people think that you take a piece of glass and heat it up and just lay it down on something and boom, it's glass. And what takes so long? It takes us 6 months from start to finish just to get a piece of glass that we can sell. So we're going back and forth with the company, which we said again is in Mexicali. So it's not like I can drive down there, drop it off and wait. So it takes a lot of time and effort that goes into getting the final piece of glass. And then on top of that, because the vehicles we use to test the glass have to be original OE. And by original OE, I mean a barn find that someone left in their backyard. There's no doors, no new roof, no A-pillars, nothing can be changed on it. That in itself is a treasure hunt because it's hard to find those. So that's what we use to make our glass off of, which makes it difficult when people buy our glass that don't have an original body. And then if it doesn't fit, there's usually things that have to go into that. So it is a huge process to try and get just one new piece of glass out to the public because we want to make sure we do it right and that we know we can't please everybody, but I at least want to please most people. And that's kind of our goal.
Well, we just finished, you're not a truck, but a 66, 67 Chevelle. And I had a guy from back east ship me a car that was supposedly all original. So you can imagine what it costs to ship a car from back east to Arizona. We get the car and first thing I look on the trailer, it's got auto metal direct quarters, roof skin, deck lid. So we couldn't even use the car because it's like, this isn't factory means factory. OE parts. You can't, an OE fender that someone welded on is not a factory car. It has to be a factory car. The trucks are much easier because you can look at the cab immediately and know that the window section and the back section are good with no, we don't care if there's rust in the channel. That doesn't matter as long as it's got the original opening and it's still clean. So that's the challenge to making all the glass. But yes, we are all the way back to 55 right now. We're contemplating the 54s. That's a lot harder piece of glass to make because, 54, some of them have the channel in the middle of the windshield. So we're contemplating making that piece without it and having all the 54, the 5 and the 3 window. So
is that something where you guys, if you see like a 49 to 54 truck, are you just like, grab that son of a bitch because I want to have it, even if we don't, I just need that cab so that if and when I do decide to go for that advanced design glass, you're like, I might as well just get the damn cab.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
then it has to be also an old cab. Like we've seen plenty of trucks that we would love to use, but they're done and they're painted and they're beautiful. And so we don't want to use that. So I can't tell you how many times this guy's come home with a trailer with 2 or 3 beds or trucks on the back. And I'm just like, what is it? He's all, we need them. We need them.
I have a lot of bodies.
Plus all of our upholstery stuff, which is a little off topic, but we test fit everything before we send it out as well. So we put the dash in, make sure it fits correctly. So when you get it, you don't have to do any trimming or anything like that. So we're real big on being able to install it right out of the box.
That's a great segue to go into the interior. You guys offer a lot of the same stuff. Hey, you want the glass? We got the glass. You want the interior? You want a new dash? I like for example, the 67 to 72, you've got the cap, you've got, for upholstery perspective. So some of you guys might not have your head. I don't even remember what they call that. I've got it in a couple trucks, but you've got your little head ring, layer of,
we make a full headliner now. And the reason we make that is to cover the glue for the glass.
Yeah, so you've got the headliner, you've got the back, you've got
panel and A pillars, and then a dash.
Yeah, so A and B, and then for the audience, I think originally you guys did the front for 67, 72, and then obviously you did the back as well. But did you do the back originally at the same time, or is that something that came later?
No, we did them. All ours are done kits with full car.
And basically what we do is when we get like, hey, let's do glass for this. We'll get that body in here and then we'll do the glass and then we'll do the whole interior for it too. We'll prototype all, mock it all up, get the molds all ready for it. And we design the interior. Mostly we designed it with upholstery shops in mind because people don't realize that when you go to your custom builder and he builds you an interior, that shit is heavy because they build it all out of wood, all out of Bondo. And then a lot of the doors will end up sagging and things like that. And we didn't want that. We wanted somebody that could do it themselves if they wanted to, or upholstery shops would have something simple to template off of and then just be able to cover it for people. So it's worked out quite well on both fronts. We definitely sell more to the do-it-yourselfers than we do to upholstery shops, but upholstery shops love our product because it's consistent.
It's faster for them.
And it's faster for them than to actually make the whole door panel out of wood or metal or Bondo or whatever they use. So it's actually,
if you take your 67 you have on the wall behind you, if you take that in an interior shop, he's going to have it for 3 months to build you a custom interior. If he buys all my products, he can literally have it back to you in 2 weeks.
Well, and I think the key for the sales perspective from you guys is it does start to come down to time. And when you're paying $125, $85 to $165 an hour, however, Phoenix, we're just saying 120, 125 shop labor. You're like, hey, you guys will end up breaking even or saving money, and you're gonna have a better product at the end. Your upholstery guy, your interior guy is gonna love it.
As a truck, yeah.
And what we offer something that they can see too, like our designs, they know that they can upholster that any way they want. So, and then the way our stuff is designed now is you could make modifications to it by adding foam or body filler or whatever you want to use to make the shape of the door panel a little bit different, which a lot of other places that sell preformed interiors, they don't do that. You're kind of stuck with what you get. So we're pretty proud of the fact that we offer something that can be changed. Because we're not too proud to say, hey, you may not like our designs, and that's okay. But, maybe use your imagination and try to fix it up a little bit so it looks something more like what you want. And we do get a lot of people that do that.
Yeah, and when you're thinking about it from the interior perspective for the audience, hey, you might not like exactly the way that this door panel flows, but your interior guy can have some fun with that, and you can make some
Exactly.
changes along the way. So there's so many different options that you're like, hey, it is a one piece, or I'm selling this one door panel, but you can have some creativity with it,
Yeah.
or your interior guy as well.
Yeah, we post a lot of that stuff on our website. So we try to get the customers that do stuff like that to send us pictures, show us what you did. So we're very blessed to have a great group of customers and a base that supports us no matter what. And so they will send us in articles showing step by step how they modified something to fit something we don't make. And so that is good for learning for other people, future buyers, because it lets them see, oh, okay, I'm not limited to this one design. I can do something different. And I think a lot of people that are building cars and trucks want that, because I think a lot of the time, I feel like it's 50-50. Either one, they have no idea what they want and they just go in and let the builder tell them what they want. Or two, they know what they want, but it's completely unachievable for their budget. So having something that they can modify kind of meets you right in the middle. So, okay, it's not very expensive. It's $1,400 for a set of door panels. So instead of spending $5,000 to have some guy build them kind of the way you want them, you can at least start with something good and then let them modify it. And it'll cost you half the amount of money. It's because builds are ridiculous. I don't know how you people out there are paying what you're paying for these builds. It's absolutely insane.
Well, and as you know, being here in Arizona, the interior shops have lost their minds.
I just had a client tell me he was quoted $250,000 for an interior. $250,000.
Yeah,
that is
crazy.
Absolutely ridiculous. And whoever that is should be embarrassed.
Was it local?
No, it's out of California.
Well, I think the problem now is just like anything, these guys are just going to throw the most ridiculous number. And if the guy says yes, because I think most people are a minimum of a year, if not 2 years out. Painters are 1 to 2 years out. So many shops are, and it all really goes back to what you initially said: is you're trying to find work, you're trying to find talent, you're trying to find somebody who can do the work at a high level. And we're at a point where I think it's really hard for people to find that right employee. And then just again, like we mentioned, you go from 4 to 8, you think you would just have 4 more problems, but it ends up being a lot.
Yeah.
It's a multiplication issue where you've got a times instead of an addition, and just problems and situations and issues. So I do think it's cool for you guys that you're, like you said, again, you're nailing it, Carrie, where you're saying, listen, we offer this, but you can change it how you want and work with your guy. And I'm sure there's upholstery shops that, like you said, they love it and they do something cool with it, and they really put a spin on it.
Well, we're not offended for people to change our products. We are not high and mighty, contrary to what people might say, but that's why we don't plaster our logo off or everything we make, because we understand that individuality is a big part of this industry. And someone wants to build their car as their car, not as the Fesler interior car. And we get that. We just want to provide quality product that they will brag about and say, no, I bought this from Fesler. It fit awesome. It looks great, yada, yada. But I don't need to put my name all over it for someone to realize that it's good product. So that's kind of where there's a bunch of other companies out there. I'm sure y'all know who they are. That
we don't advertise.
That they stamp their name.
We're all word of mouth.
So that kind of helps.
Have you ever been looked at the one-piece window kit for the doors? Because the way that you ingenuity or have that desire to make things better, that's probably one of the biggest things and I don't mind a wing window, so I've never put them in, but I have very rarely ever heard that they go in good and seamless and are smooth. The other thing,
we're working on a new set for that.
Cool.
And regarding the company that's making them now, they just don't have it down quite, the mechanical part of it behind the doors. And so that's kind of what we're working on, but we've been working on it for almost 2 years. So it's definitely a harder process than people think.
We just finished the Bronco.
Yeah.
So the Bronco
first gen?
Yeah, 66 to 76, I think it is, or 77.
Yeah, 77.
We did the flush glass for that, and then we did a one-piece side window kit for that.
Well, if you do a one-piece window for a C10, I sure hope that, and I get why they do it, and I don't even really know. I should do a pod on this. There's a Brothers one that Brothers was using. There's
That's
one
all
that
made in
had
China now.
they had one that was a little triangle, and
Yeah.
then to take up the gap, which I totally get for the window. And there was one that didn't. And of course, I like the one that didn't. But again, I just think there's a lot of problems there. So I should research that a little bit more.
The one that didn't, you can't buy anymore. The problem is you got to change the hinges.
Yeah.
The hinges are in the way of the window track, and that's the problem. So you're not just buying a window, you got to buy hinges, you got to buy a window frame or a window motor setup, and then then someone has to be able to alter the door. So that's we're trying to figure out a way to make it as simple as possible so that the guy in his garage can do it.
Sure.
Then he has to be somewhat knowledgeable about, he can change wheels and tires, change his brakes, and he can put this in. But a lot of guys, if you get into the welding and other stuff like that, now you've just limited yourself to 10% of the people out there that'll buy it. Now they have to take it to a shop to have it done. And we're trying to get away from that. The companies that are making it right now have gotten away from that. But the problem is their window's only held on with one piece. So when you roll the window up, you got to hold it because it's trying to dance all the way up and down. And that's a nightmare. And they all leak. We haven't seen one yet that doesn't leak. So there's a bunch of issues trying to be solved at once to make that one piece work. And no one understands the headaches that come with that. It's an absolute nightmare. We'll figure it out eventually, but it takes a while.
I tell you all about it too. Just tell me when
Okay, so you guys you've done it for the Bronco, but you're
I'm doing this. I'm working on the 67 and basically 67 to 80s right now.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to get both of those knocked out next, and then we'll decide if it's worth it going farther back. Because the guys on the 60 to 66 typically don't spend the kind of money that the guys on the 67s and up do. And then again, 55 to 59 is a higher, bracket of people too. The 60 to 66 still hasn't really taken off. I don't know if it ever will, like the 67. I mean, eventually you're going to run out of 67 to 72. So I take it the 60 to 66 will be the next one that gets it. I mean, there's a lot being built, but most of those they're pretty much all custom. They're not, they're not people buying parts for them. They're just building them all themselves.
Well, and to expand on that, people always ask us, what are you going to build next? What are you going to build next? What class do you come in next? Are you going to make it for a 1969 Pinto or something? And we base our production on requests. It's all about the public. So the more requests we start getting for, even if it's a random vehicle like a Lincoln or a Riviera or something, if we keep track of all the requests we get, and once it gets to a certain amount, then we go and review how it'll work out to go ahead and build those. What's the revenue stream going to be like? Stuff like that. So asking for it really does help in the long term get us to decide to make more. And right now, how many sets of glass do we?
We'll be 20 within the next couple months.
So 20 different sets.
It's a lot.
And our goal is to get to 50. It's hard to manage a lot of those, but if we could get to 50 different flush mount applications, that would.
We're serious then.
Yeah, like 20 isn't serious.
Yeah.
Now people still ask us, they're like, well, why don't you make it for this? Like they don't understand the process. To make glass it's a 4-process mold setup. So I mean, it's a very, it can be 20 to 30 to 50 grand in one set of molds, and people don't understand the time that it takes.
No, we get people who ask us if we could build them just one set of glass, and when I tell them it's about 30 to 50,000. Half of them are like, whoa, that's a lot. And the other half think I'm ripping them off. So it's expensive to do.
Do you remember the Nomad?
The roaster shop Nomad?
No. It's called the Nomad. It was built by Steve's Restoration. It was a 1955 Nomad. But they called it the Nomad. If you look it up, it's a pretty sick build. It was a guy here in town that worked for Intel who had Steve's Restoration build it. It started at Arizona Street Marine here years ago. Regardless, my point of the story is we were good friends with the guy building it, and he had 2 of the rear side pieces built to be flush, which I'm making right now for a 55. So 55, 56, 57. But his 2 rear pieces, $45,000 for 2 pieces of glass. So that gives you an idea what it cost to make back then. And that was made over in Europe because no one in America could do it. We think we can do it. We're figuring out the bend right now because it's got a big bend in it. So if I can get the bend down, we'll have that for that car. I'm working on all the side glass, front, rear for that car as well. I mean, it's a nightmare.
I like that. Hopefully, just to think that those Tri-Fi Nomads that there's, and I mean, there's a bunch of them, right? There's the Carpenter, there's the
Oh,
Nomad,
there's a lot. Yeah.
but I just think a 210. I just think it's cool that they're still being built. And like you said, there's always, I'm sure you're always kind of chasing. Well, what's going to be hot? What's not hot? What was hot? And I think the 67 to 72s, if anybody knows, it's going to be you. I mean, like you said, they're going to stop building them, but they're going to keep building cabs. And I was listening to another pod one time, and the guy said, hey, as long as chassis companies keep selling chassis, somebody's got to be building trucks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we
It's not
we always
going
joke.
anytime soon.
We always joke. We're like, where in the fuck are all these chassis? We're
Oh,
like, all these companies build chassis. There's got to be like a chassis graveyard somewhere because, but at the end of the day, if they're building chassis, whether it's for a Camaro, whether it's for a 67 to 72, whatever it's for, you could almost the chassis guys have the most knowledge because if you know what's being built chassis wise, then you know what the market
have you ever heard of the number for Roadster Shop a month? Do you know what they ship a month?
No.
We were told it's 60 a month. I don't know if that's true, but just imagine. I mean, they're a huge facility, obviously.
Yeah.
And they do top notch work. I mean, it's by far the best. But I don't understand it. I don't understand how they. I mean, we know there's probably between 3 shops here in town. There's probably 30 or 40 chassis sitting right there.
Yeah.
It's absolutely insane that a chassis Roadster Shop 4x4 chassis $40,000.
Oh, more than that. Depends on how
I'm just saying they started at 40. So yeah, you want it with a motor, it's 110 grand. It's like, who's buying these? We never had clients that wanted to spend that kind of money.
60 may not sound like a lot, but for those of you who don't know what a chassis is.
Yeah, I think they do, but I think 60 grand is it's
suggested to go look.
But it is funny to think it between almost what you guys see from your sales and what chassis companies see, and then obviously now you've got like Premier who's selling cabs from Tri-5s to Blazers to C10s. So I think from that perspective, sitting where we're sitting, based upon looking back 20 plus years ago and looking at what parts were available, the Dodge guys always kind of give me a hard time, and some of the Ford guys, because they're like, you can pretty much build a C10 out of a catalog now. I mean, it's that popular. So
the Dodge and the Ford guys don't spend the money where it needs to be spent.
And if you do, you're leading the way, especially if you're a Ford guy. If you're a Ford guy who's spending that kind of money, then you're one of 5 that's kicking ass.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's nothing available for them.
Was El Diablo, did that have your glass in it? The F100? That
we don't have any Ford glass. We have Mustangs only.
Oh.
So we do 64 to 70. I'm doing the F100 67 to 72 right now. And then I don't know if I'll do more of those. It'll be from feedback from you guys, whether it's, I don't know what the market is on the Ford stuff, because Ford stuff has never done well for us.
I think the bump side, the 67 to 72s will do well.
I think that'll be good, because I know where 3 of those, Casey's wants them. So him alone will buy it. He'll buy enough over the next 5 years. It'll make it worth me to do it. And which I'm sure will lead to other sales. But I mean, you got to forecast what you're going to sell over the next 5 years to make something worth it, to spend the kind of money we're spending on the mold process. And I think that's where all these guys in the industry fails. They don't, they'll spend 50 grand for a frame, but then they're like, oh, you want 2 grand for your glass. It's like, yeah, but you just paid 7 grand for your wheels. You have to look at inflation and what stuff costs. I mean, stuff is just, since COVID, nothing is reset really. Everybody's kept their prices where they are. And until the manufacturing side can drop back down again to get more reasonable, I think we're here to stay on these insane prices for parts. Look at a supercharger, it's 7 grand now. I don't know what Premier is selling a body for, but I'm sure they got to be close to 20 grand for a full body. 18 grand, 20 grand.
Do the Ford OBS, like the OJ style Bronco, do they have flush mount like the Chevy went flush mount in 88?
No, and we've had a few people ask us about those, but again, I don't know how big that's going to be. I need probably 20 serious people to consider buying it to probably even contemplate making, is it worth it to make that mold? Because again, the mold process is a nightmare.
I'm going to say that the bump side, 67 to 72, and the OBS are going to be because the dent, which is your 73, to 79 right there, that 80, that's going to be just barely. But I'm going to say the OBS, OJ style, the Lightning, the first gen Lightning, the second gen is horrible. It's the most ugly truck. Yeah. But I think that those would be your 2 markets. And for the audience, I know we're not Ford talk, but the bump sides for sure, and then the OBS would be hot.
Before I do those, I'm doing the Buick Grand National.
Oh yeah. There you go.
So again, not a truck thing for you guys, but we've had
And
a lot of
will
requests
that work for
Grand
all
National.
G body stuff? Will that work?
Yeah, no,
Oh, okay.
that's like a 7-year span over 6 bodies.
Yeah.
So
you've got the
my
Monty,
one, so
you've got the
it.
Grand, you've got the is it the Cutlass?
Cutlass. You got all. It's like yeah. There's the Buick Regal, the Cutlass, the Pontiac, and then the Grand National. So it's like 83 to 87 or 82 to 87, and then a couple of the other bodies go back a little farther. But that's a big span. So we're doing that car too. But again, it's not a truck thing, but.
No, G body. I mean, guys, hopefully, I mean, although we're C10, I mean, dude, G bodies are, I mean, come on. If you grew up sitting in a Chevy truck, you put somebody, your mom, your aunt, your grandma, somebody was sitting there smoking in a G body because there was a lot of Chevy G bodies
when you were kids, that's everybody, when you and I were kids, a long time ago, the Grand National was a huge car and everybody wanted to race those guys. Everybody was racing those guys on the freeway all the time because that car was super fast.
So what about all the Impala stuff? Do you do different generations of Impalas too?
We were going to get into all the Impala stuff and just we when we had the billet company, we got into a lot of the Impala stuff and it just didn't sell. Those guys are, it's a whole, they spend a ton of money on their cars. They're just not really into the custom side of it. They want all more factory production stuff because we contemplated doing the flush glass for those too. And there's just not enough. We haven't had enough interest yet. Well, I mean, maybe one day we will. I would love the problem with the Impala too, those, 63, 64, 65, and it's so many split years. It's hard to make parts for them because you're really limited on just, the 63, 64 is probably the most, common that everybody's building, but we've never had I don't think you had any glass requests for those.
Well, we don't really put it out there. So Impala guys, if you're listening.
I mean, if someone's got stuff, if it's there, we'll do it. If the need is there, but we gotta hit the sales to make it worth our time.
And I don't see how they don't want the glass, considering, have you seen what these guys do to their vehicles? The amount of work and the etching
and they etch everything now.
And I am so impressed with the amount of work that they put into it. I just feel like Fesler Glass would just top it off. We could maybe gold etch around the edges.
I think you need to get some AI going, and because a lot of times people have to see it first. And I know you're like, well, that'd be great, but you almost have to get some sort of graphic design AI going to where somebody could see it. Because I get it now where you're like, hey, it's a bonus if it's a 5-year span or a multi, especially in Chev, right? So you've got Chev, you've got Olds, Buick, so you've got so many different models that maybe if it only did 3 years, but you've got multiple models. Whereas if it's a 5-year, whereas a 63, 64, you're like, God damn, I don't know if we're going to do it. Right. But culture in that scene, they just had the Super Chevy show or whatever at the arena, and those guys are dropping. It's just mind blowing. The amount of
$200,000-$300,000 all day long in them. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, the amount of money they put into them.
And a 64 Impala with some Fesler flush mounted glass would just, I mean, it would be a stunner for sure. I could see where you get into more of the later models, or I should say, the later models, where that's would be more acceptable because you're right. Somehow something happens with a 63, 64 where I don't know that would equate, but when you see it in like a 69 or something, you'd be like, oh, God damn, that looks so good. Even like a 69 Chevelle. Yeah.
Chevelles we do. We're doing a 63 Impala right now, but he wanted all the trim, had to have the trim. So it's a lot of those guys. I mean, we at least got to color the trim. So the car's blue with a gunmetal trim, bumpers, but the interior, we're putting a white interior in it, which is absolutely insane because white is terrible. But it'll be about 2-3 weeks. We'll have that car all finished. And then we contemplated doing the glass in that car, but we couldn't talk the owner into doing it. So it wasn't
a big piece of glass too. So shipping would be a nightmare.
What's the biggest piece of glass besides like a Barracuda, a 2nd-gen Barracuda?
What is that we make? Well, we just finished the 69 Charger, which is pretty big. But I'd probably say the square body is probably the biggest piece. The square body windshields are pretty big.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, the square body is a big piece of glass because the Chevelles and Camaros are all small. So I mean, a Camaro glass is maybe 1.5 foot, and a 2nd-gen or a square body is probably almost 2 feet. So it's a considerably bigger piece. I would say out of all the glass we make, probably the square body is the biggest right now, unless I'm missing something.
Well, the most complicated.
2nd-gen the 2nd-gen Camaro has a huge curve into it, so that's really hard to make that. And everybody complains, you didn't get it bent right just this way or that way. Roadster Shop uses them in their cars. If they can make them work, everybody can make them work. I mean, we designed it to a stock car, but all the cars were built with a 2x4 and a hammer back in the day, so people don't understand the tweaking that these cars need to make stuff fit them.
And nothing you buy fits. It makes me mad when people
Yeah.
complain about our glass. It's like, go buy a fender and try to put that on and bolt it on and walk away and tell me it looks perfect. It doesn't.
I mean, the trucks are the best by far because it's hard to mess up a cab.
Well,
If you got a good cab, then the glass fits it perfect.
No, but you're right. I mean, we've interviewed different guys that work in the manufacturer or in building the trucks, and we do think that just because it came from the factory, it was perfect, but it was still dudes freaking taking coffee breaks, had to pee, smoking. One guy, I'll put 3 washers on this fender and 4, and once you really get into a truck, you realize that it's I mean, gapping alone is something that when you look at it, an original truck that's, some OG, it's never been wrecked.
Yeah, terrible. Yeah,
exactly. So glass probably, and it because it's at the end when you're putting it all in there, and there's something that could kind of change with that. I could definitely see that for sure.
That's why they did the big rubber molding, so they could hide all the edges.
Yeah,
it lets them hide everything. But if people saw what they did back in the day, I mean, they literally used to take a 2x4, put it in the door, and slam the door a couple times, and that's how they would adjust the top and bottom of the door. And it's like if people saw how that was done, they'd be like, "There's no way they did that."
Well, and flex, right? So when you think about like a window or a windshield, and you think about the flex of that, and having a gasket. So I get it. I totally get it.
Okay, so we'll back up since you bring that up. So on all cars since the 80s, basically, is when they started gluing the glass in. That's where they get their rollover strength from now. So anytime you take the butyl or a rubber bushing or rubber molding out, and you urethane the glass into the car, you're making it 1,000 times stronger than it was. So anybody that's we have a lot of guys that do the road racing stuff, and they all run the flush glass in it because it makes the car 10 times stronger, more stout, more rigid. So if you cage and you glass the car, you're making it super strong from what it was from the factory. So, but
if you think about it, the old glass was held in with butyl, which is double-sided sticky tape. I mean, can you imagine putting that on your windshield right now and just throw some 3M tape on there? It'll be fine.
And I'd say the biggest question that we get about the glass is everybody's like, well, why does it have that hue to it? It has a little bit of a green hue to it. That's the DOT. She can give you the specs on that.
That's the only thing that makes it.
So it won't shatter?
No, ultraviolet light. So
it's for skin cancer. So that's coming from America, the foundation or whatever.
Right. So safety is another big thing for us. It was when we did all the billet hood hinges and stuff. We don't want people buying our product and then getting sick from it. So the green tint that they put in between is what filters out the UV rays. And it came that way from the factory a bazillion years ago. It's just a little bit more advanced now. So that's why you can't get our glass smoked.
So all glass made in America will have a green hue to it. All automotive glass made in America will have this green hue. And we get people argue this all day long. Well, mine has a gray. That came from China. And America does not allow that. It cannot be DOT if it has gray or clear.
Now you can tint it afterwards, which is what we recommend. Get it, tint it out of the car. It's a better tint job anyway. And then put it in that way. But if you are buying it smoked from the factory, it has no UV protection in it at all. And some people just don't care, but I care. So ours will always have that.
I could imagine truck guys not really caring. So I could just see they don't really care. I don't understand why sometimes when I talk, I'm getting feedback and sometimes I'm not. Damn thing. So I want to talk more about the strength. That blew my mind, especially as a first responder. I mean, I could kind of see that now, but it's crazy to hear that. And I really want the audience to, that's just crazy. So, hey, we're going to put this windshield in there and it's going to make this cab, it's going to protect you.
Yeah. Well,
you want to hear something crazy?
Yeah, go.
So we make our windshields out of glass. Imagine that, glass, actual glass. So it breaks when glass, like they make a bottle out of glass. It's glass. Competitors don't. They use acrylic and they call it some fancy name, and it's costs just as much as our glass does. But what people don't realize, if you're in a wreck and you're trapped in your car that has Fesler glass, you can smash the windshield and get out. They can grab you out like it's nothing. They can't do that with acrylic. You cannot smash it. You cannot break it. And if there's a fire, you're stuck in a vehicle that's completely sealed up. Not to mention the fire is creating fumes that will kill you anyway. Yeah. So that's what people, when we try and say, I just got, an acrylic one from so-and-so. And it's like, well, I wouldn't drive that.
It's
And
not
it's not
DOT
legal.
approved, but you can't drive it on the street.
Yeah.
And the other thing that no one considers, and this is something you get back to what we were talking about earlier, is if your insurance company finds out you don't have DOT glass in your car and you get in a wreck, you think they're going to cover you?
Yeah, they're going to look for everything they can to get out of that.
The insurance company hire investigators for everything on custom. And if they find
ours is DOT compliant.
Yeah, we're DOT compliant. So any insurance, you can put zero glass on your policy to cover it. A lot of people don't even consider that.
Well, and what we do, because our glass is extremely expensive compared to regular glass and factory window, we offer a template for you to send to your insurance company saying, I have this windshield in my car. It costs this much money. I want full replacement value if I were to get a rock chip or whatever. And usually you won't get that for free glass replacement, but you will get maybe
$100 or whatever, yeah.
$5 a month or something like that. But at least it helps you, because if you break one of my windows, you're going to get $200 from the insurance company to replace it. And we all know that's not how much they cost. So,
and for the audience, they're about $1,800, right?
$17.99.
Yeah, for trucks are $17.99, cars are $19.99.
Okay, so cars are $19.99, trucks are $17.99. What is for a truck? What's for 6772? What's the back glass?
That's a kit.
That's the whole kit. So just the two, front and rear.
$17.99.
Okay.
And it ships in a huge pallet.
Yeah, we had Low Fast and Famous on the pod, and what a story, man. Him and his buddy were so excited. It took 8 months to get your glass, and he
came broken.
Oh no.
That happens the most. They run a forklift through the freaking pallet.
No, he got it. He's in Australia, and he was so excited, and him and his buddy put it up there, and they were just so excited, and then it falls and it breaks. And so he's like, fuck no.
It takes a long time to get through customs sometimes. We have better people for that now, so that's probably when we first were making it. So we can get over there pretty quick now, but it was when we started, it was terrible. And we've had a couple stories like that. We usually try to work with the guys to help them, because it's.
Yeah, he was. I don't remember what he said from the person. He was just so bummed because he was ready for it and couldn't wait for it. So getting into shipping, what are you guys looking at when you think about that? You guys, you package it up. You guys go overseas.
There's nothing you can do, because you've got a bunch of morons working in trucking companies that run forklifts through them. That's what happens all the time. We'll get glass shipped to guys, and they'll send us a picture, and the bottom of the windshield will have a spot where you can see the forklifts went through, and it's like, are you kidding me? And then sometimes one of the glasses will be shattered, like the back glass will shatter and the front window won't be touched, or vice versa. It's like, I don't know what they're doing to these pallets, because
we package them on a pallet in a crate.
It's bound up in a crate, so it's pretty.
She'll pay anywhere from $400 to, if you're going to New York, you're going to pay close to $1,200 to ship a set of glass that costs $17.99.
So before COVID hit, we could ship glass anywhere in America for $199. Then as soon as COVID hit, New York put all these tariffs on everything. So any trucks coming into New York were paying these ridiculous amounts. We just shipped glass to New York, $1,500. Just in shipping. And everybody's like, well, you're screwing me. It's like,
did it break?
I have nothing I can do about it.
It might have broke.
They need to get a Pennsylvania address and drive down there or something.
Well, what we do is we have Pilkington centers, and I don't know how many are in America. It's probably, there's like 60 something Pilkington centers. We can ship it there for a much cheaper rate because it comes on their trucks. So, but to go into New York is crazy. Going to Northern California is crazy. Canada is crazy. I mean,
we ship everywhere. It's just, you're going to pay for shipping. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, guys in Canada will pay $2,000 to get it there. There's nothing you do about it. And we don't control shipping, and we don't I wish we made money on the shipping, but there's no money to be made in shipping anymore.
Well, and we even when we ship up to Canada, just a shirt and a hat or something, it's ridiculous. And people, it sits there, and a lot of people I do know that are close to the border, they just have a US address or PO box. The amount of money that they have to pay to get through customs and get up there, they're just it's ridiculous. It's harder to drive back across the border with glass, though. You have a small party. You can just throw it in a bag and throw it in the back seat, and no one pays attention. You got a big pallet in the back of your truck, though. People are like, what's that?
Yeah.
Did you pay your tariffs on it?
Yeah. Did you sneak that windshield through?
Yeah.
So,
custom.
so do you recommend that when somebody does get it shipped, they obviously, I'm sure Carrie's got it dialed in. Obviously, if you want it insured, they'll give you some paperwork there to protect your investment.
It's all insured.
We insure
But
it.
I mean,
we
but
insure
okay, so you're insuring everything that comes in. So when they
Yeah.
get it,
Yeah.
they can be like, okay,
And what happens is if you get it and it's broke, cracked, chipped, whatever, we'll send you a new piece and you just get to videotape smashing the crap out of that windshield that's no good, which is always a good time. And once we see that it's been destroyed and can't be reused, then you get a new one as fast as we can get it to you. And now that's not saying that they all show up. Okay, we've had some people do 4 times. We've had to ship them glass. And it's just certain areas of the country, but we'll take care of you. I mean, the replacement glass comes first, so.
yeah, Matt from Low Fast and Famous, he should have put the windshield back in the box, taken a picture, and been like, "Here you go."
Oh no!
Yeah, what the hell happened?
If you break the glass because you're a dummy, or usually it's a DIY kind of situation where they try to do it themselves, or if the shop does it, we'll cut you a deal on a new one.
Professor's like, don't say that. Don't say that. Everybody's going to have broken.
You have to destroy the old piece of glass. So there's no.
We do have people that try to get new pieces of glass and won't destroy the old ones. Like, yes, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that'd be fun if you guys should say, send me a video of you destroying it and then sometimes post that on social, because
we should.
That would be a fun thing, just watching. And it would also kind of be a testament to the quality, to see, like you said, some of the pitfalls that you think about it when you're like, oh yeah, this is so a lot of guys might not know, but if you take a spark plug and you take the porcelain, and you take the porcelain out of the spark plug, that's what we use in the fire department, kind of when we're doing Jaws of Life training. Sometimes it can get out of hand. People are like, the junkyards are like, dude, quit breaking all of our glass, because guys will sit there and just throw porcelain spark plug pieces at glass and just shatters everything nonstop.
Yeah, science is cool.
Yeah, one of those things.
Too, on a '69 Camaro, the trim tabs will do the same thing. A lot of guys try to take on the cars, off subject a little bit for you guys, but on the cars, they'll try to take and leave their trim tabs all the way around the window, and they try to set the glass in it, and then they move it around and hit it, and it shatters the glass. So glass is very strong pounding on it, but a side impact to the glass is what's damaging. So if you're moving the glass around, you just tap that edge, you can shatter the glass.
Oh my God!
I mean, you've been dealing with glass. You can play with the back window 20 times and be fine. You just set it down one time, and boom, shatters into 1,000 pieces. You're like,
well, yeah, and you're always so gentle with it. You're always like, it's that
light tap that destroys glass. It'd rather have a hard hit than a light hit. If you just barely tip it, that's what she said. Yeah. You just barely hit that tip on it, it'll just shatter into 1,000 pieces. She was doing the whole time.
Don't touch the wires, just the tip. He's not gonna want a back rub tonight, Chris. Okay, so you've been 30 years coming up. You've had highs and lows, and you've stayed married, which is absolutely impressive. Because staying married for 30 plus years, plus being in business together
on its own,
my wife worked
and working together.
Yeah, my wife has work fired me. She's definitely work fired me. She's like, no, I'm not working with you anymore. What would you say is some of the best things? So you think about some of the negative things. It's easy for us to sit here and say, employees suck and customers are a pain in the ass. But when you think about it, you're at SEMA, you're looking at, the high-end builds that are featuring your products. What's some of the best things that you think about being in a business for 30 plus years?
Probably that we get to travel. We obviously travel all over the country with it. We have a rig and we travel all over the country. And probably the best thing for my side of it is traveling with family. We take our kids, we take our dogs. So that when we're on the road, we don't get to miss out on family. And our kids get to experience a lot. They're learning a lot about the country. They get to see the country. Whether they like it or not, I don't know, all they care about is VR and hanging out with their friends or playing on their iPads with their friends.
Yeah.
So
for me, it's pride, hands down. Anytime I see anything that someone's installed or it's in a magazine, there's that little glimmer of pride, way down deep. When you look back at everything you've been through, and then you realize, you know what? Yeah, I guess we did make it, because this guy's putting our stuff in his car and that magazine wants to shoot it. So I'm just real proud of where we've come. And you got to remember, I was 18 years old when we started doing this with Chris. He was a cradle robber. But So we've come a long way. So we've gone from being the kids in the industry who don't know anything and nobody wants to listen to you because you had all the Boyd Coddingtons and the Kevin Wilsons and all the Steve Stillwells that had been in the business a long time already, and they were gods. And so trying to work up to their standards was really hard. Then we get to the stage where people like, okay, you've been in the business for a while, you kind of understand what you're talking about, but you're still not, you know, those awesome guys from then. And then now we get to the point where we're the old people and we're just the grumpy Boyd Coddingtons now who just say, this is what we're going to do. This is the reason we like it. And you can take it or leave it. We don't care. That's the best part of working together, is we have the same mentality when it comes to business and child raising and stuff like that. We're on the same page. And if we're not, we figure out why. And then we fix it. So it's not uncomfortable here. We don't fight at work. When we go home, work's over, period. We don't answer emails. We don't answer texts. We don't talk about the jerk that called at 4 o'clock. So it's been a good marriage exercise. Plus, we break down a lot when we travel. And I think if you can make it through that, your marriage can make it through anything.
We were on the side of I-40 for 3 days with 2 kids, a wife, and 2 dogs. It was.
Why you throw the wife in there?
It was a good time because she had a nervous breakdown on the road. It was super fun.
It was a little one. It was a little nervous breakdown.
But 3 days on I-40, I'll still get that.
Yeah.
But your setup's pretty sweet. So, I mean, if you're going to be broke down in the setup,
I always say, if no one
it's
died,
a pretty nice setup. For the audience, it is a 80-foot diesel pusher with pretty much a house attached to the back, and then another, what is it, a 40-foot trailer?
36.
Yeah,
36-foot trailer with a diesel pusher. And yeah, you've got a, do you have to have
no, got a bathroom.
No, I didn't know if you had to have a certain, because it has a bathroom, you don't have to have
no CDL because there's no bathroom.
Nice.
So when we break down, I can cook lunch and we watch TV and there's a shower.
Still bad, but it's better than.
It's not so bad, but anybody's been stranded in the middle of nowhere and it's a little frustrating.
Yeah, with kids and a dog, and at least kids nowadays have, like you said, back to the computers. I do think that the kids will always look back on that. That's funny. You know, even my kids, I'll say something like, well, what do you remember? And it's always surprising. It's definitely not playing video games with their kids. It's like, oh, this truck or this truck right here, Yellowstone, my kids. Yeah. We get in it, we went all over, and then they're like, you should have never sold it, and this and that. And you're like, you kids didn't care, and you didn't, now when you sell it, they want it all back. So it is funny that your kids will have those memories, and that's just part of it, and growing up that way. And it's like,
we did that Utah show last year, which was their first truck show there. The one that and the kids, I don't know if I don't think you went up to it, but are you going this year?
I'm not. I'm actually, let's see, what is it? That's May something coming up. May. No, we're actually getting ready to head back to pick up my daughter from college. So that's going to be, cool. Her first year of college. So she's got to come. We're going to go fly out and pick her. She's in South Carolina. So she's going to, so that'll be, and we're flying. But I do want to, next year when I take her out, I want to drive her out, leave her a car, and then I'll fly back. She went her whole freshman year without a car, which is fine. She's got a roommate that's got a car, but she's like, Dad, I really could use a car.
I had a car, it was so much better.
Well, all that means is she could go to the beach because she's about 8 minutes from the beach, and she's always bumming rides to go to the beach, and she really just wants to. First world problems.
Yeah. Uber. We didn't have Uber.
Back to the C10 show, our kids keep asking us every week when we're going. So because they have a big skate park up there, so they want to go up there and skate park.
We're going to the Battle of Alabama at the end of May.
Oh, I love that show. I was supposed to interview Craig last night. I think we're gonna we rescheduled that for tomorrow night. So Craig Raleigh that puts that together. So Battle of Alabama, love that show.
Yeah, he's super great.
Yeah.
Are you going to that or not?
I actually, so same thing. I'm just kind of trying to figure out that time frame. I do want to go because it's the first time in Talladega at the raceway, and I love.
They're super excited about that.
Oh yeah, and I love going to even at the ocean at the Battle of Bama. That was it's a really fun show, and Craig and his wife do a great job.
It kind of sucks it's away from the ships, but because people got a lot of cool pictures there.
Well, and he even said, he goes, we just outgrew that. We just absolutely outgrew that. And that's a great problem, just when you outgrow something. But, the raceway, and it'll be fun. It'll be fun to see how that first one kind of shakes down. So speaking of that, what do you guys think? What do you think about social media? So when you got in, you know, it was yellow pages and word of mouth and the truck forums or any type of forum. I even wrote down, I wondered if Fessler, I'm sure you probably remember this because it was kind of local, but he had this thing and it was called My Ride Is Me. And
Yeah, I remember that.
he was all over, and you'd have to, you know, if for you would have probably had some ad space because you're pushing it. And remember Grunion was a big one back here in the Valley.
Yeah.
But when you think about social media, how is that a good thing? Has it helped you guys?
Yes.
Well, the problem with social media in our industry is everybody used to wait to go to SEMA to see the greatest and hottest things. Those days are gone. So technically, I don't know how much longer SEMA will be around. We've been going to SEMA. Well, I've been going to SEMA since '91. We're pretty much probably never do a booth there again. I think we have 18 years seniority, and we're gonna miss it this year. So they're gonna take half of that away from us. But I think with social media, the good thing about it is if I can produce a piece of glass or a door panel or anything, and I can literally have it in front of 100,000 people in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And at SEMA, you're lucky to get 200,000 people there. So within 2 days, I can be over 1 million people. So in that aspect, it's great. The problem is kids don't have any attention span on it. So there's as fast as they can go through it. So I mean, it's a good and a bad thing. The hard thing is creating the content to make people slow down and actually see what you're doing.
And I think that's where print advertising is coming back big time. I'd like to see a lot of the magazines.
Yeah, people want to touch and feel everything.
And they want to, and same concept applies. You can flip through a magazine and not look at the ads, but you're in that section of your genre that you want to be in. So the chances of you looking at it are more than surfing your Facebook page that shows you funny videos, truck parts, and then naked women, or cool
naked women
or flip-flops with penises on the bottom, like so you're just so inundated with different stuff that I feel like it's easy to pass by it on social media, but hands down you have to do it. You cannot be in the industry and not do social media. It's it would be a bad decision.
Well, I have about 10 magazines all around here, and I love them, but I don't.
Our generation loves the magazines.
I do, but I just don't spend the time. I'll flip through them, and I it's funny, like even like Carrie's saying, like, well, if I want to dial in on something, then I guess I go to my phone, I look it up, I might try to search a picture, do a tag. But yeah, it's definitely an evolution to where we used to, I used to get a catalog and I would almost memorize that catalog. Like I would go through it and
you dream about what you were going to buy next.
Oh yeah. I would go to bed and I would have my catalogs and I would just sit there and circle things or post-it note and like memorize these things. And now you're just constantly, it is challenging.
A bit of history is, you told me this, when the Sears robot catalog came out back in the day, that was the new advertising bubble. And they put a lot of local stores and the local newspapers and advertising that way out of business because you could just get one giant catalog and read about everything you need. Social media is the same thing. You can get anything you need on social media instead of, for example, the yellow pages. If you need a bug guy, you go to the bug guy section. If I need a bug guy online, I'm going to get a bug guy, I'm going to get bug and weed killer, I'm going to get information on bugs and how many spiders live in America. So like it's so much more broad with social media. I do think coming back down and simplifying it will get a lot more people dialed in on the industry they want, that they're really interested in.
I think the challenges for the young guys and girls is how do you, and I notice this too, and I don't want to get off on a tangent with this, but it's hard to slow your brain down once you're already going 80 miles an hour. And, like I look at it like the 80s were 40, the 90s were 50, 60, 70. We're going at like 80 miles an hour and we're living off of Monsters and coffee and everything else. And it is hard to really just, okay, let's downshift a little bit. And it is, you go on your family trips, you turn a truck show into an adventure, you go to a kids park or a skate park, and it is to like even just kind of decompress, go camping, whatever it is. But it is hard once you're sitting there to be like, do I want to look at this magazine or do I want to look at this phone? And it can be challenging for sure.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, but you can't. Like she said, you got to be a part of it because the whole world is there, whether you like it or not.
I tell people, don't absorb someone else's life, just visit it. Same thing with social media. Don't absorb it. Don't make it everything. Just go visit it every now and again and get what you need out of it.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they're getting what they need out of you guys. Let's take it out with this. I did talk a little bit pre-air and a little bit at the beginning, but we're going to get into auto appraisal stuff. So throughout this adventure and this journey of the Fesler life, you've become an appraiser as well. I can't imagine that that's easy. Obviously, you're a professional and a craftsman to even obtain that or want to. Tell us a little bit about what you offer.
So basically, we offer full-blown insurance appraisals to divorce, to diminished value, to prior loss. And basically, everybody that's insured in America is underinsured. So for everybody here that's building 100 to, even if you got 80 grand in your truck or 60 grand in your truck, call your insurance company to make sure that's what you're covered for, because someone like me can come in and do an appraisal for you and then give you the value of 80 grand or 100 grand. If what no one in this country realizes is that if I build a car right now for 100 grand, and let's just say a 67 or 69 Chevy truck, in 5 years, if I take care of that truck, I can usually sell it for more. So they go up in value, they don't go down in value unless you built it wrong. So everybody needs to take in consideration the money that they're spending in their cars. Need to make sure that they're covered, so that when it comes time to a claim, they don't get, oh, we're only going to cover you for $5 grand.
Well,
so,
and what's the diminished value? Is that where you get in a wreck and you muck up your car and they pay to fix it, but now your car is worth less because it shows it's been in a wreck? Chris goes in and gets you that difference,
the diminished value
that you're not going to get when you sell your car because it's been in a wreck. So a lot of people don't even know that's an option.
And they do that on hot rods as well too. You can do those too.
He'll charge $500 to get you an extra 3,000. So it's definitely worth it, but people just don't know. They don't know that that's an option.
The insurance companies don't push it.
Companies, they trust them, which
the insurance companies aren't here to be our friends.
They're here to.
Yeah. So we just try to get back to. I mean, I got into it because the company that I was doing all of our appraisals for the cars we were building, they went out of business, or he retired. He got the guy that was doing all the stuff got sick, and the company called me and said, "Look, I've been working with you for 10 years. Is it something you're interested in? I'll train you. I'll get you certified, and he's not going to teach me about cars. I've known about cars my whole life. I've been in them since I was 5. So he's like, you're a perfect candidate to do something like this. So we try to do stuff when we're on the road, and anybody that comes up to a show, has a car, needs appraised, we'll appraise it there for them on the spot. And it's just something to make sure that these people have a peace of mind of what they put into a lot of these people are putting their heart and souls into their cars, and to come find out something happens, it gets stolen, it gets hit, and they're only getting a portion of that back. You're not getting what your actual value is. So it's definitely something for everybody in the country that's spending any kind of money on their cars to look at, because now they're not covering you for anything. I mean, if the insurance company says your car's worth $4 grand, that's what you're getting.
Do you do it? Do you ever do it online, or do you have to be there?
Oh, I have to physically inspect the car.
Okay.
I mean, if I've got somebody that can send me, if I can send someone a report, and if they can duplicate the pictures back to me, I can build a report off of that with information. But I mean, obviously, it's always better if I inspect the car to see what we're looking at.
Yeah.
But I do stuff for all the big shops in town. I mean, I appraise a lot of cars in all those shops, so these guys are getting the real values on them.
Well, and he can do an appraisal at the beginning of a build too.
Yeah, we can do a shop appraisal.
So when it's sitting in someone's shop who probably doesn't have enough insurance to cover the car if the roof would fall in, he can say that this is starting out at this much money, but as it progresses, it is eventually going to be worth this much money. So if something happens to that vehicle in between that time, that guy's still getting reimbursed for the amount of money he's put into it.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that too. I mean, you can take any shop here in town, if they've got 10 cars in there and they're all over 200,000, they don't have enough insurance.
Well, and builders, everybody listening out there, you should just build it into the price of the car and have all of your cars at least be professional.
Yeah, I have a couple of shops that everything they do we appraise.
Well, and they're building, like you said, hey, sell it. You're insured while you're here. We're going to get a stated value. Make sure you're, you're at 100. I think the hard part too is a guy won't be thinking, a guy or girl, a builder, they're building it, they're spending money, they're doing it. And then all of a sudden, hopefully, nothing does happen. But if it does, it's just, oh, well, I have to make sure it's done before. Well, no, we can get you, and you've got your receipts and so on and so forth. But you almost have to have like an umbrella, like a build policy throughout
and
that.
They offer that. Grundy offers that. So I don't know if there's any other company that will, but Grundy they actually have a build policy. So every car in my shop is on that policy. It's just for the fact that if my shop ever burns down, I don't want to fight with my insurance company. These guys will just get a check on the spot for whatever the car's worth.
Well, I think we'll get Grundy and Fesler auto appraisal, and we'll do an auto appraisal episode. So for you guys out there, if you need glass, if you need interior inserts, if you need anything for your truck, your car, get with Fesler. And then if you need an appraisal as well, they got you covered, and we'll do something like that where we can get that in the future, because I do think another thing is we're so lucky that the cars or the trucks have gotten more valuable. I do know that it's easy to spend way more than they're probably worth, and we do see that a lot as well. But at the end of the day, we're so lucky that it's not a Pinto or some Renault that's just the value, it's going down in value every day. Like a newer car, these older classic trucks have gotten very popular. If you've had one for OG, I mean, now you're paying a lot more than you used to pay to get into one. But at the end of the day, we're really lucky that they maintain or they do go up in value. So you might think, hey, it's only worth 10. It might be worth 20. It's only worth 100. It might be worth 150. But you need to ensure because a lot of guys have a lot of trucks.
And the insurance company is not going to take your word for it, period.
No.
So you have to hire a professional.
Everybody needs to call their insurance company and make sure they have stated value or appraised value. If you don't have one of those policies, you're not covered for what you think you are.
Yep, exactly.
No matter what your agent tells you.
Yeah, don't listen to your agent. You need to see it in writing. I shot a guy's car who had 45 grand into it. It was a WRX. But those guys spend money in their cars just like the guys do with the trucks. And the insurance company offered him $7 grand for it. And he was told that he had a $25,000 additional to that, and he didn't have it in writing. His agent told him he did, but he didn't have it in writing. So he got $7 grand. And I think I ended up getting maybe another $8 grand, but there's only so much to get if you don't cover, because by law, your insurance, if you had that truck, you talk about that truck behind you, if you had that insured for, let's say, 25 grand, the insurance company, when you wreck it, tells you it's worth $8 grand. Well, you got to prove it's worth 25 grand. That's hard to, that can be hard to do. Obviously, with social media and everything going on with all these trucks being built, Barrett Jackson, the Mecum auctions and all that kind of stuff, you can kind of verify prices, but still the insurance company's not going to go to them. They're going to go off of what the last 3 cars they did were either sold for or valued at, and that's your value. So
at the end of the day, the bottom line is get it done on the front side so you don't have to deal with the bullshit on the back side. And it's a lot easier because you're not going to have to spend the money. So it is spend it up on the front. And I understand how insurance works. I mean, Arizona is probably one of the worst states to have insurance. Auto insurance. I believe that. We do have a lot of illegals here, and we pay for that. And the rest of you guys are getting illegals everywhere else now. So now you know what it's like to live in Arizona.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's ever going to equal out because they start here, but bottom line is if you do want more coverage, you are going to pay more. I don't know of any insurance guy going broke. They all live in nice houses around here and drive nice trucks. They make a lot of money, but understand that if you want a high coverage, you're going to pay a little bit more, but when you need it, if and when you do need it, it's going to be there for you.
Yeah. You want to make sure you're covered.
Okay. Chris, Carrie, the Feslers, we do appreciate it. Appreciate your time. Appreciate the work through this morning. Obviously, we had some technical difficulties, and can't wait to see you out there and maybe at Talladega.
Yeah.
Be great to see you.
Okay. You guys give them a follow. Social media at Fesler USA. And I think the website's the same, correct?
Yep. Fesler USA. Yep.
Yeah, because you also have Fesler built at one point, but is that just
that still goes there? That's for the build side. We don't do as many builds. We do more parts now.
Okay, yeah, that's where the money's at. So keep it going. They're right here in the PHX. If you guys need them, hit them up. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. Bye.